Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts football podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. As always, I'm Jeremiah, and we're back again with another episode for you guys today. And yesterday, I talked about the possibility, or probably the more likelihood, of the Oakland Raiders relocating to Las Vegas. I did say that there was a vote yesterday, and it looked like it was going to happen. You know, it was massive support from around the NFL. The ownership around the NFL loved the idea, or I should say they're very influenced by the idea. And, you know, Oakland, they couldn't get a viable stadium in that city because, honestly, the Oakland Coliseum was probably the worst sports venue in North America. And honestly, I saw this coming ever since it was kind of announced, ever since Mark Davis wanted to get a new stadium for the Raiders. Well, fast forward a day later, and we now have the Las Vegas Raiders. So Las Vegas is going to get their second professional sports team, you know, with the Las Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL, who are going to start their franchise this year in the 2017-18 NHL season. Oakland will not probably be in Las Vegas until 2019 or 2020. So they are going to play in Oakland for 2 more years. With this all happening, it's a really tough day. Well, I should say it's a tough time right now for a lot of Raider fans. And, you know, in the Bay Area in California, especially in Northern California. Because, you know, this is, when you look at this $1 billion stadium project that the Raiders want to build, I already know that it's going to cut the middleman out. Just look at the new stadium for the 49ers. You know, they don't play in San Francisco anymore. They play in Santa Clara and San Joaquin Valley. The reason why that place is never packed is because, for one, team's bad. 2, ticket prices are really high. But you know what? I get it. I get the reason why the Oakland Raiders are moving. I get the reason why. You know, money talks, people. And this is honestly all about money. You know, Mark Davis really was pushing to get a new facility for the Oakland Raiders. And, you know, even before that, Al Davis was trying to get a new stadium. Al Davis was trying to get a new stadium during his entire life as an owner for the Raiders. That's the reason why he moved back and forth to L.A., to Oakland, to L.A., to Oakland. Well, he only did it once, but it seemed like he did it all the time. So, what this move can do, you know, the Raiders are going to play in the entertainment capital of the world. And the NFL has all been about globalizing the NFL brand. And, you know, the Raiders are probably the biggest sports brand in America and even North America. And you can even add South America too, in that, I might add, because, you know, when the Raiders played in Mexico City earlier this year, it was a Raiders home game. It was a Raiders home game. So, you know, the Raiders are one of the big sports brands. You can definitely say, probably in the world, you know. I think this is another effort to globalize the brand of the NFL and the Raiders. And, you know, Las Vegas is one of those global cities. 'Cause when you think of the global cities in America, you know, you think of L.A., San Francisco, New York. Las Vegas is in there too. People from all over the world come to Las Vegas to do multiple things, you know, because it is a city where you can enjoy the nightlife. And that's pretty much it's an entertainment city. You know, you got a lot of musical acts there that have a resident show. You know, you got like Cher. I think Britney Spears was doing a resident show there once. Carrot Top is there. So, you know, you got all these performers and entertainers that are known for being in Vegas. And now you can add the Raiders to that. But, you know, there was a lot of mixed reaction with this. Most of it though was negative. And I think I don't like that, you know, Oakland's not going to get a team. And I get why the NFL wants to stay away from, you know, that city. You know, if you ever been to Oakland, you'll know why that was part of the Raiders' home. Like, the Raiders fit the Oakland city. But, you know, the city of Oakland, they just don't have any money. And when you look at one of the highest economic cities in America, Las Vegas is one of them. That city makes a lot of money from tourism. So, you know, with the Raiders moving to Las Vegas, it's tough for me to say that the NFL probably won't ever go back to Oakland. It's tough because, you know, Oakland, they've seen the Raiders move twice. They suffered so long through a pretty bad teams. Before this season, they haven't had a winning record since 2002, which was the last time the Raiders were in the Super Bowl. So for 22 years, fans in Oakland had to suffer for an absurd product on the field. And when they finally have an exciting team, they finally actually are fun to watch when they're actually entertaining. Mark Davis wants to move them to Las Vegas all because of a stadium. And honestly, I get it. I've never been to the Coliseum, but I know a lot of people that have been there, and it's pretty ugly. I've heard that is definitely one of the worst venues in sports. It's definitely outdated. And, you know, the city of Oakland, they just couldn't get it done. So, the other thing that really speaks to me is that this is the third location, or I should say, third relocation of a NFL franchise in the past, 14 months, I think. Past 14, 18 months. The NFL has relocated from San Diego. They relocated from St. Louis and from Oakland. St. Louis, San Diego, and Oakland, I don't think the NFL is going to go back to any of those three cities. St. Louis, I don't see the NFL going back there. San Diego, unfortunately, you know, San Diego just couldn't get anything done with the Chargers. They couldn't get a stadium deal done. And, you know, when you think of the NFL now, the NFL is all about stadiums. They're all about branding stadiums. So the fact that San Diego couldn't get one, you know, the Chargers had to go out of town. You know, with St. Louis, you know, they just couldn't get anything done there. And, you know, with the Raiders, I think the writing's been on the wall for, you know, them to relocate for the past year. A lot of people don't want to believe it, but, you know, it is officially happening. But, you know, they are still going to play in Oakland for 2017 and 2018, and they could relocate to Vegas officially in 2019 and 2020. So they're still going to play for 2 years in Oakland, at least, which is basically the same thing as when you break up with your significant other here. When you're in a relationship and you break up with your significant other, this is like living with your significant other for 2 more years after a breakup because of a lease. That's basically it. Because you can't get out of a lease. Both your names are on it. And you can't find anyone to cover it. You can't find anyone to get your release. But that's basically what this is. The Raiders staying for 2 more years is basically the same thing as living with your significant other after a breakup. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be really awkward for 2 years. It's going to be interesting to see the fans there and how they react in games. So that's something that kind of still baffles me a little bit, is that they're still going to play in Oakland for 2 years. But getting back to, this relocation, the Raiders only needed 24 votes. They received 31 of 32, with Miami Dolphins being the only team opposed. So, a lot of reaction from the actual players and Raiders. One of them, most notably, had a very emotional response, and that was Derek Carr. And, he took to his Twitter yesterday, and this is what he had to say on Twitter. Quote, "As I sit here and see a vote that takes the Raiders to Las Vegas, I'm overwhelmed with emotion. I don't know how we should feel. I feel the pain of our fans in Oakland. I also see the joy on the faces of our new fans in Las Vegas. As players, we will show up and give everything we have. We will compete, and we will do our best to bring a championship to the entire Raider Nation. While I am from California and would have loved playing in Oakland my whole career, I understand the business side of the NFL. It affects us all. Oakland, our team loves you, and my family and I love you. We will be resilient, and we will stay together because that's what true Raiders do. We are loyal. Even when it's hard, we stick together, especially when it's tough. So Las Vegas, you can count on us bringing the piece of Oakland with us, and you are getting a tough, loyal, and competitive fan base and team. When the time comes, I hope you are ready. For now, it's 2017. Our diehards in Oakland. God bless and go Raiders." So, I just when you're a player on this team, like how do you feel about moving to Las Vegas? Because most of these players are going to have their families there, and do you want to move your families all the way to Las Vegas? And you got to think about what Jack Del Rio and his mindset is, because remember, he is from Hayward in the East Bay. He did come back to Oakland, which he considered home, and now you have this team moving in Nevada, where he probably doesn't even know anything about. So how do you feel when you're Jack Del Rio, when you are coaching for your hometown team and now your hometown team's moving? How do you feel about that? So the only thing that I probably am concerned, well, it's one of the things I'm concerned with, is when the young players on this Raiders team, they have a lot of good heads on their shoulder, like Amari Cooper, Khalil Mack, Derek Carr, all the young core. I'm not worried about them because they look like they have really good character. They look like they have a good head on their shoulders. I'm more worried about someone, not Aldon Smith, because I don't think Aldon Smith's going to be on this team anymore. But let's just say if the Raiders happen to draft a young kid this year, or when they move to Vegas, they draft like a young 21-year-old out of college. And when you're getting drafted to the Las Vegas Raiders, and you have the bright lights, you got the party atmosphere going on, you're a professional athlete, you got money, isn't that going to want to kind of persuade you a little bit to want to live this certain lifestyle? Because there's a chemical that we all have, and it's called dopamine. And what it does is that when the dopamine increases every time we do something that really makes us happy, gets us excited. Dopamine occurs a lot in Vegas because of the gambling. And when a lot of people gamble. There's a chemical called this chemical dopamine really increases the chances of you gambling. So when I wanted to put that in perspective of a young player, when you're about 21, 22 years old out of college and, you're a professional athlete, you got a lot of money for probably the most money you will ever have, and you see this atmosphere of like that party atmosphere, you see the bright lights, it's a city that never sleeps. I think, when you step out into the city and then, you go to like a club there and then like people see who you are, you get a lot of attention and all that dopamine is going to increase. You're going to be like, okay, I like this. I can get used to this for the rest of my life. So the dopamine is going to increase. And then eventually, let's just say if you're still that same guy, that same professional athlete that got drafted out of college to the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, let's just say you've been in the league for about 4 or 5 years and you're not productive and, you're still enjoying that party lifestyle. That's the dopamine. That partying lifestyle, that's everything that goes on in Sin City makes you happy. You got so used to it that it kind of hurts your productivity on the field. And that's the thing that really, really kind of concerns me a little bit. Like when you're a young kid going to here, you got to have a good head on your shoulders. So with this team moving to Las Vegas, I'm telling you right now, the character evaluation and upcoming drafts in the 20s is going to be very important for this team to have sustained success. Because with a team of Derek Carr and Khalil Mack, we've seen how this team can perform. They're set up to be good for 10 years. They're set to be good for the next 10 years. So I am concerned about, the young guys playing over here in Vegas, but when you're a veteran that's in the 30s, they're not really into, partying, like you've done it already. But when you are playing in Vegas and you're around that spotlight, when you're a young 21, 22-year-old and you're constantly in this city, then the spotlight's on you. You're going to like it. The dopamine effect does kick in. Like, let's just say, for example, let's just say that Johnny Manziel was drafted by the Raiders and they were in Vegas. That's something that I don't even want to think about. But let's just say if it did happen, Johnny Manziel, I don't want to say anything negative about what could happen, but when you see the lifestyle Johnny Manziel had even before the NFL, him in Vegas would have been times 2. When I look at young players, going to a city like this, it does make me concerned. It makes me kind of think that they might get off track a little bit. They'll get more concerned with the partying lifestyle. Johnny Manziel played in Cleveland out of all places, and he was constantly out partying. So, it kind of does concern me about, a young player going to Vegas. But I get it. From a business standpoint, I do get the Raiders moving to Vegas. It's all about marketing the NFL brand, marketing the Raiders brand. It's another way to globalize and nationalize the game. I get it. But for all the fans in Oakland, I truly hurt for them because, they suffered through years and years. They suffered for 2 decades of an absurd, terrible team. Raider Nation is strong there. That's basically where the capital of Raider Nation is. And if it's not in Oakland, it's definitely in LA, which I thought was a better fit for the Raiders, by the way. Better than the Chargers and the Rams. But, it's going to be interesting to see how Raider Nation in the Bay Area goes. I still think, this is probably one of the best fan bases in the world. And, Raider Nation, they do travel well. They're across America. So the fan standpoint, I'm not too concerned with. Another concern I have with the team is that are they ever going to fill that stadium? Because if you've seen it, I just don't know how they can fill that stadium. Especially, I imagine the tickets are going to cost like around $300 for multiple seats. So it's something interesting to look at, and I never thought I will ever see an NFL team in Vegas. So we're literally 3 years away from watching a Los Angeles Chargers game versus the Las Vegas Raiders. We're 3 years away from watching the LA Chargers versus the Las Vegas Raiders. I never thought I would ever say that, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Man, how the NFL has relocated 3 teams is mind-blowing to me. Never thought I would ever see that happen in a 1 to 2 year span. Well, enough about the Raiders. I talked about 20 minutes already. So I'm going to take a break, and when I get back, I'm going to discuss New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft and comments that he said about his quarterback Tom Brady possibly playing for 6 to 7 years. So I will discuss that when I get back to Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast. And can we really see Tom Brady play into his mid-40s? Well, that's what Tom Brady told Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots. Well, Robert Kraft told ESPN at the NFL's annual league meetings on Monday that, quote, as recently as 2 to 3 days ago, he assured me he'll be willing to play 6 to 7 more years at the level he performed. There's no one that would be happier than I in our fan base. Okay, I just wanted to recap. I just wanted to tell you guys that Tom Brady is currently going to be 40 years old in August 3rd. It's going to be 40. I know he played at a high level this year, but let's look at past players that have played with their teams for 20 more years and have played into their 40s. So you have Detroit Lions kicker, Jason Hansen, former kicker that is. He has the NFL record right now of the most seasons with one team, which is 21. Brady is entering his 18th year. So if he does play 6 to 7 years, he's going to shatter this record that's held by Hansen. And other players that have been with their teams for 20 years. You got Washington Redskins cornerback Darrell Green. You have Jackie Slater, who was an offensive tackle for the Rams for 20 years. They all spent at least 20 seasons with one team. Tom Brady, I think he's going to play there for 2 years. But, man, the last quarterback that played well into his 40s was Brett Favre. He was good at the age of 40, but the year after, man, he was the worst quarterback in the league at that time. Man, he was just terrible to watch. It was sad. And I loved Brett Favre as a kid growing up, especially in his prime. It was sad that the way Brett Favre went out. I don't want Tom Brady to go that way. Because Tom Brady was one of the quarterbacks that not just the quarterbacks, but one of the players that I idolized when I was a kid. So I just want to remind you guys that I was about 9 years old when Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl. That seems such a long time ago. So, I don't want to see Tom Brady go out in a bad way. When you think of other quarterbacks that played into their 40s, like Warren Moon, you got Steve DeBerg, Vinny Testaverde. They have been the oldest quarterbacks to be on the NFL roster at the age of 44. So, George Blanda played until he was 48. He was a kicker late in his career. And, Robert Kraft did say that the lifestyle that Brady does live, he has a chance to do that realistically. And, he talks about the time, after they won the Super Bowl in 2001, that he was just training 3 days after, just working out. And Robert Kraft talks about, Tom Brady eating avocado ice cream. He said that's not the right thing for him. And I'm like, I didn't even know there was a such thing as avocado ice cream. And if there is, I'm not trying it. That sounds gross. But this is Tom Brady. He doesn't have a normal diet like regular people have. This guy that doesn't even eat strawberries. He stays away from coffee. If I stay away from coffee, I probably wouldn't even be doing this show right now because I would probably be asleep. But still, how do you stay away from coffee? That's the one thing I can't get over. But getting back to Tom Brady playing in his mid-40s, I don't know. It's just realistically, I don't know if that can happen. I can probably see maybe early 40s, 42, 41, but I don't know about 45. And with Tom Brady possibly playing for 6-7 years, what's that going to do with Jimmy Garoppolo? Are the Patriots going to pay him to stay there as a backup? Because remember, Garoppolo is 24 years old. He's not going to be 24 years old forever. He's going to want a chance to start somewhere. So that's another thing they had to play into. Are the Patriots going to pay Jimmy Garoppolo to stay as a backup? Because what just happens, we'll just say that Tom Brady does get injured, you have to put Jimmy Garoppolo there. And I've been saying this for the past offseason, the past few months. Tom Brady is literally one injury away from being done. And that's just not Tom Brady. Any player that plays in the NFL is one injury away from being done. And it's important to have that backup quarterback there. So I understood that the Browns were asking a lot for Garoppolo. But, I didn't think the Browns were ever going to bite on that, even though they do need a quarterback. I do think this is going to impact Jimmy Garoppolo if Tom Brady does happen to stay this long. Jimmy Garoppolo probably is going to be a full-time starter until he's like 30. They wouldn't even know he can be a starter because he will be on the bench his entire life. So if you're Jimmy Garoppolo and you have Tom Brady being there for 6 or 7 years, like, doesn't that want to make you go elsewhere to start? So that's the thing, are the Patriots going to pay Jimmy Garoppolo to stay there? That's the one question I have. But as far as Tom Brady playing to his 40s, that's tough for me to say. I think 42, 41 is more realistic. I really want Brady to go out with a bang. I do not want him to play until he's 45 and looks like he can barely throw a football. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to him, but I've seen it with guys like Peyton Manning, Brett Favre. They were absolutely terrible the last years. Brett Favre, he was in his 40s. In his worst year of his career, his final year with the Vikings, he was very awful and sad to watch. And it's tough for me to say that. Peyton Manning was lucky that he had a really great defense, or else the Broncos probably would have won 3 games in his final year. So, honestly, me personally, I don't want to see Tom Brady go out like that. But if there were someone to play into their 40s at a high level, it would be Brady. But I don't know if he can do it at 45. It's tough. It's tough to constantly, have that type of routine going to your 40s. You're in training camp, you're practicing, you got Thursday night football games. It's tough. It's even tough for a 24-year-old to do that, let alone a 45-year-old. All right, well, I'm going to take my second break, and when I get back, I'm going to discuss Jason Witten signing a 4-year extension deal earlier this morning. So I'll discuss the Cowboys tight end when I get back to the Going to Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMc Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Well, it seems that Jason Witten would be a Dallas Cowboy for life. And the tight end signed a 4-year extension with the team through 2021 that maxes out at $29.6 million, and it does not include more guaranteed money, but gives both sides a peace of mind knowing where Witten will play beyond this season. So Jason Witten was he was entering his final year of his contract this year, and he's turning 35 in May, and he was set to make $7.4 million base salary and count $12.2 million against the cap. So the Cowboys, they found a way to restructure the contract, and he will earn close to $4 million cap space wherever they need it. So this is a 4-year contract that Witten has signed with the Cowboys since he was drafted by the team in 2003. So, in Cowboys history, no one has caught more passes, played in more consecutive games, started more consecutive games than Jason Witten. So he's one of those guys that it's a rare case where you play for the same team for your whole career. I talked about Tom Brady, playing to his 40s in the last segment, but the thing I did say that he's probably going to spend 20 years with one team. It's rare for guys to play their entire lives with one team. Like, during in modern times, I can think of very few players that have been with one team their entire career. I can even think of it outside of football. Like NFL, okay, Tom Brady is probably the only one that I can think of on top of my head. Kobe Bryant of the LA Lakers, who retired last year, he was with the Lakers in his entire career. So there's not many guys that are with the entire team, with the same team the entire career. It's just very rare these days. So for Jason Witten to do this, it's really good for the Cowboys, good for him. And I kind of like it because of the young guys on this team. The Cowboys are one of those phenomenal teams to watch this year. What you saw from Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, this team is going to be good for the next decade. Depending on how long Ezekiel Elliott can play at this level, because that's going to be important. That's depending on how long he can play at this level. It's going to be interesting to see how this team can go in 10 years. Dak Prescott, sure, he may be a one-season wonder. We never know, but I don't think he is. I just think he's just different. But, a thing I do want to say about Jason Witten is that him being in that locker room is good for those young guys. And Witten, he only needs 13 catches to move into the top 5 in league history to surpass Chris Carter. Tony Gonzalez, who is regarded as the best tight end in NFL history, he has more catches and yards to win as a tight end. Jason Witten has played in 10 Pro Bowls. Jason Witten has caught at least 60 passes every season since his rookie year. So he's very valuable for the Cowboys on the field. And I do like this from a leadership standpoint because they have all these young, electrifying players that, they had such a successful season in their first year in the NFL. You need to keep these guys straight on track for the second year and beyond. So I do think Witten in that type of role, it's very important to have him in that building. And I think the Cowboys, I don't know if they can win 13 games again because they're not going to, be under someone's radar. But I do think they are going to be successful this year. I think they can win the NFC East division again, even though I think it's going to be a little tough for them. But I do like this move from the Cowboys and for Jason Witten. All right, well, I am going to go. I had a very fun time talking about the Raiders for 20 minutes. But, I had a lot to say about that. And, I will be back tomorrow. Anthony will be here too. We will discuss any type of news that happens over the next 24 hours or pretty much anything that I didn't get a chance to talk about today. But I had a lot of fun talking about football to you guys today. As always, I'm Jeremiah. This was the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. You guys have a great day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMc to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.